unexpectedly lost Dan on Thanksgiving Day of 2022. And
Sorry.
so that was that was the thing that really made my other brother and I launch our app So Free.
Mhm,
And the idea had been there,
mhm,
got it on a run one day, and I'll tell you more about that. But we had been sitting on it, and then after he passed, we were just like, I didn't work for a couple months. We were all a mess, and we were like, let's do this. We need it for ourselves. Walking's bilateral. Parents who naturally sway their kiddo back and forth as a baby
mhm,
is activating an innate self-soothing mechanism that we have in our body,
mm,
which calms everyone down. You'll see people just inherently sway back and forth, or maybe,
mhm,
tap their arms or their legs back and forth or
mhm,
whatever as a way to self soothe. And so a lot of successful people that I work with look successful on the outside, but on the inside, they're unraveling.
mhm,
And that's the work that I love to do with people, is help them get their internal edge back so that their inner world can become more aligned with their outer world. And we use something in that therapy called bilateral stimulation. Just means left and right side of the body.
mhm.
And what this technique does is it allows the left side of the brain to talk to the right side of the brain alternately, and makes the mind rewire and reprogram itself around trauma.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using New Calm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Mandy Morris, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So, with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today. And we want to talk about this amazing app that you have called So Free that
Mhm.
actually literally helps people reset their nervous system. And in 2 minutes, by the way. And I
Yeah.
also want to talk about the consulting you're doing and the coaching you're doing with executives. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking for this day, has been on my calendar for a few months, and I've been looking forward to it. And so I'm really honored to be here.
So we've had over 1,000 people approach us about being on the podcast, and you're episode 356. We're
356.
very selective about who we put on the podcast, and we're booked out months in advance, as you
Yes.
experienced, right?
Uh-huh.
So some of these that we're doing now were booked 3-4 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. I never dreamed in a million years that we'd be here, just so you know. So thanks again for being here. So where were you born?
I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah, I live in Atlanta, Georgia now, but born in Baltimore, Maryland. Lived there until about the age of 5 or 6. And my
Mhm.
father, who is a big Greek chef, he he was brought to Atlanta to start the culinary department of the Art Institute of Atlanta. So he was
Ooh.
the head director, chef of that up until he retired about a decade ago now.
Mm.
And we grew up with two older brothers and my mom. And I lived in a house full of musicians and artists and creatives.
Mhm.
So every member of my family plays some sort of instrument. I'm pretty sure once we moved to Georgia, the church we were a part of was going to kick us out because we did a family, and I was like 7 or 8 at the time. We
Mhm.
did a family song. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was "We Three Kings" to "Inagata Devita,"
Mhm.
like the '90s rock band,
Yeah.
and with my tambourine and all that stuff. So grew up in a Greek musical family,
Did you do that in church?
and oh yeah, Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure they're going to kick us out after that, or at least my parents out, because that's what they chose to do. Yeah.
That's so cute. So, what was your favorite thing about growing up in Atlanta?
Favorite thing about growing up in Atlanta. So I'm not a huge fan of the city of Atlanta at all. But I do love that it is such a creative city.
Mhm.
And there's art and entertainment and music and all of that. But my real passion was growing up was in sports. So I was an athlete all my life and got really into basketball and volleyball and became an early high achiever at sports, I would say. And that took a majority of my childhood.
What's your favorite sport?
To watch or play,
Play.
to play. Mm. I would say basketball, but
Yeah.
that became so much of a chore. I don't know if you've ever been so into something that at some point it becomes a job and then you've lost your passion and sight for it. Then it was indoor volleyball. That would be my favorite. But now my favorite is tennis. There's a ball, there's a net. That's all
So
you
my
need.
son was the MVP of his high school basketball team,
Uh-huh.
and he went out for football his freshman year in high school. And his mother and I looked at each other like, "What?" I said, "Michael, you don't even watch football on television. You're not a football fan. What are you doing?" Turns out, and I asked him if there was a girl involved because all the stupid stuff I've ever done in my life is because a girl was involved.
Sure.
We found out that it was his best friend was going out for football, and he asked him to go out with him.
Uh-huh.
We did, right?
Yeah.
Played the entire season. He was elected captain, starting left guard, starting inside linebacker, starting special teams. It's a small school, so they played Ironman football. At the end of the football season, they promoted him to varsity for special teams. He plays in their first playoff game ever in school history. They lose. We're headed home after the game. And I said, "Michael, you pumped up about playing next season?" He said, "Nope." "What?" He goes, "Dad, playing football this year made me love basketball even more. I want to play basketball full time."
Nice.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Get after it.
Yeah.
So he had private coaching. He played AAU. He played high school. I mean, we lived, breathed, ate
All the sport.
basketball for
Yeah.
4 years, right?
Nice.
Yeah. That
Nice.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to get a letterman's jacket in high
Hmm.
school, but you had to do two sports to get one.
Hmm.
And so I only did basketball, and I was like,
Hmm.
I've got to find another sport. I
Hmm.
got to get this letterman's jacket. And
Right.
so me and a few others, my freshman year of high school, started our school's very first indoor volleyball
Awesome.
team ever. So we had the inaugural team, and I was so bad at serving that I had to get subbed out
Hmm.
every time I had to go to serve. But then senior year, I had the most aces,
That's awesome.
and I was very proud of that.
I love that. So Michael, after 4 years of basketball, went out for indoor volleyball
Oh,
his
nice.
senior year, and he loved it. He's like, "I wish I had done this for my
It's
freshman
like we
year."
had parallel sports lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing, absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
Science.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely science. Always been into science, into the why behind things, and I think that's part of what led me into wanting to learn more about the brain and get into the inner workings of all of that and psychology and all of that, but definitely science, hands down.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher, I had a few favorite teachers. The thing that came to mind though when you said that was actually a coach.
Okay.
I
It's
definitely
okay.
had a favorite coach. So
Coaches are teachers too,
yeah, well,
you
for
know?
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And I went through some bad ones, some ones that were very critical and made me question my worth. You know,
Mhm.
it can be bad. It can be
Yeah.
brutal. High school and middle school sports can be brutal. But
Yeah.
my favorite coach, Coach Dan Davis, he, every game we had to dress up. We had to dress for success. And every game, every home game, actually, no, every game, he would handwrite a letter to the team. And the captain of the team he would step out, the captain of the team would read it, and there was something personally addressed to all of us in this handwritten letter. And then we would turn the lights out and we'd put on the theme song to Remember the Titans
Mhm.
and envision winning the game.
Love that song.
Yeah. Yeah. And to this day, that song just fires me up.
Yeah, it
But he
does.
did such a good job at pushing you and making you believe in yourself
Mhm.
while still making you work really hard.
Yeah,
He was great.
awesome. Growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
I would say I would definitely say my oldest brother
Mhm.
was one of them, for sure. Um, he I both my brothers, but growing up, my oldest brother, and I mean, he taught me how to play music. He, taught me how to headbang in, like, middle school,
Mhm.
but he was also a feeler like me, and I could talk to him about things
Mhm.
that I maybe too nervous to talk to my parents about or anything like that. And as we as we got older and even into college, especially in my moving towards becoming a therapist and all of that, we would have very deep conversations about mental health and
Mhm.
our own struggles and things like that. And um, he was so talented and had such a big heart, and I always really looked up for him for the kind of heart that he had because
Yeah.
there isn't anything that Dan wouldn't do for anybody else, and I love that about him.
That's cool. So after high school,
Mhm,
you go to college.
I do.
Where did you go and why?
So, I went to Georgia College and State University.
Mhm.
My first pick was UGA, and my backup plan was Georgia College and State University in
Mhm.
Milledgeville, and I didn't get into UGA.
Mm.
So I went to my backup,
Yeah.
and I ended up loving I was worried about it first because all my friends are going to UGA, but I loved it. At the time, I was a kinesiology major, and my plan at the time was to become an athletic trainer.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where people tell you, "You're good at sports, go into something about sports."
Mhm.
You should do that because that's what you're good at. And so I said, "Okay." You know, backtrack a little bit. In high school, I went to a small school and we all got senior superlatives.
Mhm.
And I mean, Mike, I was hoping for like most athletic or
Mm.
like best eyes or like something like that. And I got most caring. And I was so mad at the time because I was like, everybody's caring. That's not a superlative. Like who who gets that? Everybody gets that award, you know? And but in hindsight, I think I was a young therapist in the making.
Mhm.
But going to school because I did sports, I still wanted to be the person to run out on the field and like pop the shoulder back in place and help people in that sort of way. So I I started down that route, but I had started volunteering. Until this day, I don't remember how I got involved in volunteering, but I started volunteering at this like crisis resource center.
Mhm.
And I could sit with these women as a lay counselor and just be there with them in crisis.
Mhm.
And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And I found myself wanting to be there more than I actually wanted to go to my classes. And I'm a rule follower
Mhm.
pretty much. And so for me to not want to go to classes and to be hanging out with these people in crisis really started helping me rethink things. And I had started in my own therapy for the first time in college as well. And so that really made me take a look at what do I really want to do. And my going into my junior year of college, I call up my parents and I say, "Hey guys, I got to talk to you. I don't think I want to be an athletic trainer anymore. I think I want to change my major to psychology and become a therapist." And I love my parents, and they had good intentions when they said this,
Mhm.
but their response was, "Do you really think you're well enough to help other people?"
Mhm.
And I was like,
Mhm.
deflated, right? And
Of all the things they could have said.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so, and I was like, well, this is what I think I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
And knowing that it would mean more school after college and all, all the things that go along with it, and made the transition.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Dan was a huge part of your life.
Hmm.
Have you thought at all about how that impact that he had on you drove you to want to help people in crisis?
Yes, because, and I'm jumping a little ahead here, so you can backtrack me, but we unexpectedly lost Dan on Thanksgiving Day of 2022.
I'm
And
sorry.
so that was that was the thing that really made my other brother and I launch our app So Free.
Mhm.
And the idea had been there,
Mhm.
got it on a run one day, and I'll tell you more about that. But we had been sitting on it, and then after he passed, we were just like, I didn't work for a couple months. We were all a mess, and we were like, let's do this. We need it for ourselves. If it just helps us get through this time, great. But we really think it can help other people, and we know Dan would love this. And so 2 years ago is what really launched us doing the app.
Mm. Wow. What a great story. By the way,
Yeah.
this is your story, so you can skip anywhere you want. So, by the way, you do have amazing eyes.
Oh, thanks.
I'd have voted for best eyes.
Thank you, thank you. I'll write that down in my yearbook. Mike Litton says.
Right. But it doesn't surprise me in the least that they recognized you for your caring,
Mm,
because literally that's Dan's legacy.
yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And there were 6 days, about 6 days to pull off his celebration of life story or ceremony, because it
Mhm.
was right around the holidays, and my mom had to have heart surgery, and
Mm.
there was all these things happening. And so, the only way to get the word out is on social media. And the church he played music at, that youth worship pastor there who he worked with, really helped us get it all together. And like, we're in survival mode at this point.
Mhm.
We set up chairs for maybe about 60, 80 people, and thinking we don't know who all is coming. My parents knew some friends that were flying in from Baltimore to be with them. I had a few friends local who were coming, and there was close to, if not over, 200 people that
Mm.
came. And this woman, before it gets started, me and my brother, and in the back, people are walking up to you, hugging you and shaking hands, well, all the things that happen. And this woman comes up to me, and she looks me in the eye, and she says, "Mandy, do you know who I am?" And it took me all about maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and I said, "Molly?" It was my childhood best friend that I hadn't seen in 30 years. We'd
Wow.
reconnected a few years back on Facebook, but I
Mhm.
hadn't seen her since I lived in Baltimore.
Mm.
And she flew in because she saw that, we had lost Dan,
Mhm.
just to be there. Still
Wow.
makes me emotional thinking about it, because that's
Yeah.
such a, like, what an act of love. And that's
Mhm.
a testament to the heart that Dan has, and
Mm.
and the impact that he had on people. And so
Yeah.
thank you for saying that, because I do. I hope to carry that on, in everything that I do.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. We're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about this app, So Free. I also want to talk about the incredible work you're doing with executives and helping them to basically, for lack of a better term, sort of put things in perspective and
Mhm.
de-stress, right? Be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, You can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go. So we're back with Mandy Morris. And before the break, we were talking about the loss of your brother, Dan, and sort of his legacy, right? What he led you and the rest of your family to do. And the fact that now you and your brother had decided, because of this, part of that was to create this app. It's called So Free. Can you talk for a second about it? Because one of the things that I read was you can literally reset your nervous system in like less than 2 minutes.
Yep.
Is there shock involved? I mean, is it? It's not. It doesn't electrically shock you, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's
No,
right.
no, no, it doesn't. But
I'm kidding, but yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Well, so my background is I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor, mental health therapist for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And I specialize in EMDR, stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Super long name, but it's a type of trauma therapy that is neurological. And we use something in that therapy called bilateral stimulation. Just means left and right side of the body. And what this technique does is it allows the left side of the brain to talk to the right side of the brain alternately, and makes the mind rewire and reprogram itself around trauma. Now, when you use that technique just in and of itself, it pulls you out of a stress response. So there's literal neuroscience behind walking it off. Walking's bilateral. Parents who naturally sway their kiddo back and forth as a baby is activating an innate self-soothing mechanism that we have in our body, which calms everyone down. You'll see people just inherently sway back and forth, or maybe, tap their arms or their legs back and forth or whatever as a way to self-soothe. And it's because it works. If you go to the doctor's office and they go to take your blood pressure, if your arms or legs are crossed over your midline, they make you uncross it because it shows a drop in your heart rate. That's bad for an accurate blood pressure reading. That's great for stress and anxiety. So I was on a run one day and I was thinking to myself, why have we not combined this with our technology? Because I use this with my clients all the time. I can get someone out of a panic attack within seconds using this technique. And so my brother, who's a brilliant techie and has his own tech agency and has, done product launches and all the things, I was like, could we have a stress detection app that gives people bilateral stimulation in some various ways from their phone? And he was like, ooh, I like that idea, and I showed him how it works and all of that. And so yeah, we came up with So Free. And So Free will reset your nervous system in under 2 minutes using bilateral stimulation. And there's 3 modes. There's audio. So bilateral, a lot of people are familiar with binaural beats. So it's just audio tones that go in the left and right side of your ear. There is So Free C. So through face recognition and eye movement, you will track a ball with your eye that goes left to right. Or there's the haptic feedback. So from your wearable to your phone, it will vibrate left to right, back and forth. And you can do all these modes at once. You can pick your favorite concoction of whatever 1 to 3 of them that you want to use. My preference is to do all of them at once and have an immersive experience with it. But you can literally, so we have patent pending on the technology because it also includes biofeedback. So it will measure your heart rate variability, your heart rate, respiratory rate, and you can see after you've done a session how your HRV has improved. So there's the actual bio data that you see from your own body from it.
Hold on just a second. So there are people that are listening to this that don't know what HRV is. It's heart rate variability, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So what is that? Tell people what HRV is. And
so heart rate variability essentially is how quickly your heart recovers. And so the higher your HRV is, that the better, and the lower your heart rate is. So the higher your heart rate variability, The lower your heart rate, the healthier your heart is and your stress response. So in in athletic terms, it's your recovery time, how quickly you get to a point of recovery. So that's what it is. You want to have a high HRV.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So biofeedback, when people talk about biofeedback, can you talk about that for a second? So
Mhm.
part of biofeedback is that heart rate variability. What other types of biofeedback are we talking about?
So there is respiratory rate. So yep. So how your breathing is, your oxygen levels.
Hmm.
There's your skin temperature. Then the HRV and your heart rate. Yeah.
So my oxygen level, I was sharing with you the other day, or sharing with you earlier today, less than a month ago, my oxygenation level without oxygen was 84
Mm,
when I got to the urgent care, and they put oxygen in my nose. Never had
mm,
oxygen before, so it was a whole new thing for me.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and it got me up to 97.
Wow.
And they came in a few minutes later and said, we need to call an ambulance and take you to the emergency room. And it was something where I thought I had COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I was, I'd had COVID before, and it attacked my lungs and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't walk 5 steps without being completely out of breath and thinking I was going to pass out and all that. Took an at-home COVID test, tested positive on my 59th birthday. Happy birthday to me, right? Um, and I thought, I've got COVID. I've got 2 more days. I'll be, 7 days. I'll be good, right? By the seventh day, I was worse, way worse. Went to the urgent care, and they're like, "You got to go to the hospital." And they find the single largest blood clot they've ever seen in the history of the hospital in my, like, an upside down U, clear across. It's called a saddle clot. Goes clear across and down.
Mm.
And the they did a CT scan with contrast. They did chest X-rays negative. They did blood tests, all stuff. The doctor walks in and he says, "We found it, and it's massive, and it's terminal." I'm kind of like, what? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And he goes, "We're going to do everything we can do to save your life tonight." And I kept asking him, what are my chances? What are my, right? I'm in shock. What are my chances? They won't tell me.
Mm.
And by 1:40 so I got there at 5:30 in the evening. By 1:40 the next morning, they had the entire clot out. And it's the single largest one they've ever
Oh,
removed from a human being in the history of the hospital. And it's a hospital that's been around a very long time, right? Everybody knows Scripps Hospital.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So it was a real wake up call for me,
Yeah.
and something that I want people to hear. I want people to understand that if you have, and it sounds, everybody's heard it a million times. If you have pressure on your chest, if you feel like an elephant sitting in your chest, if you're short of breath, I couldn't have been more short of breath if I tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't have had more pressure on my chest if I tried. I completely misdiagnosed myself. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a medical professional, right?
Right.
But I was also being a bullhead, and I didn't want to go into the urgent. I told you this. I didn't want to go to the urgent care. I didn't want to go to the emergency room. I didn't want anything to do with that. My, I'm so glad I did when I did, because I'm not sure I would have survived the night. And they basically told me I wouldn't have. If I
Yeah.
hadn't come in when I did, I'd not be here.
Yeah.
So it had a major impact on me, because I'm trying to figure out, why did God spare me? Why me, right? Kind of an imposter syndrome thing almost. Um, but I truly believe that I'm doing what God prepared me to do for the last 59 years. I'm in the walk that I need to be on. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm working the mission, right? And I truly believe that added to that is, I need to talk about sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to talk about, if you know somebody, or you are somebody who has, and women too, if you have pressure in your chest or you're short
Yeah.
of breath, get to a medical thing right away. Don't wait. Don't think you're gonna diagnose it yourself or treat it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That nearly killed me. Just thinking that nearly killed me. Um, so I feel like I'm here to have that conversation. So the sleep
Yeah.
apnea thing is, they put me in the ICU after the surgery. So after they went out and pulled all that, by the way, I didn't feel the pain, but I felt the tugging of Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm
Oh, I
not
bet that was
joking.
a weird
It
feeling.
was weird, man.
Oh.
Like I've never felt anybody pull in here before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like laying there going, huh, this is crazy. One of the things that happened though was I get to the ICU, and when they're in ICU, they monitor everything that's happening, everything. They had me on an oxygenation thing on my finger. When I would go to sleep, I had obstructive sleep apnea. My oxygenation level would go from 97 down to 70. That's
Wow.
where they have to resuscitate you if they get that alarm. So I'd go to sleep and the alarm would go off and wake me up. And so I'm like, can you turn that blasted thing off? And they're like, no, they won't let us turn that off. But what we'll do is we'll give you oxygen like you had when you got here. Yeah. We'll put oxygen back in your nose and hopefully it'll trick the system. So I had obstructive sleep apnea, and God used this as a way to get my attention. Now
Yeah.
I'm on a CPAP machine
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually sleeping at night
Oh,
and I
good.
actually have energy. And
Makes a world of
I'm not
difference.
falling asleep at my desk at 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not making decisions now because I'm trying to point what little energy I have every day,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I was walking like, when COVID happened and they shut down all the gyms, I walked 136 miles in 30 days
Wow.
because I had to get outside. I had to get my blood pumping. I couldn't lift weights. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything to operate, to work out with. So I had to get outside. I had, climbing the walls, right? Had to get outside, had to walk, and I did. And when the ICU doctor came in, I told you this, after the night after the procedure, he waited until my wife got in, and he said, you set a record last night. It's the single largest clot we've ever removed from a human being ever in the history of the hospital. And he said, and it's not a record I wanted, obviously, but he said, and my wife's like, he does everything over the top. Everything he does is over the top, right? And and let me tell you something really positive, because you have an incredibly strong heart.
Mhm.
He goes, your heart made it through this with flying colors. I'm like, really? And my wife goes, it's the walking. It's all
Mm-hmm.
the walking,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yep.
kind of maniacal about it,
Yeah.
right? That Saturday when I woke up 7 days before I ended up in the emergency room, that Saturday that I woke up, I was short of breath. I went out walking thinking, I'll open up my lungs. I did the same exact thing when I had COVID before.
Yeah.
COVID starts attacking your chest and your lungs and you start feeling it. I went out and started walking hills. I nearly died doing it, but I was out there coughing and hacking and walking hills because I tried to
Yeah.
get oxygen in my
Yeah.
lungs. I'm not recommending people do that. I'm just saying that's what I did. I feel like it's important that we have an honest conversation about what we need
Yeah.
and what people need to do to not kill themselves avoiding going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Those people took such unbelievable care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And all of them, by the way, became podcast fans of ours. They're all listening to the podcast now. And
Wonderful.
by the way, for all of you that are listening, thank you for saving my life.
Mm-hmm.
I heard some of the most amazing stories from people about one of my nurses. Is a giant man. He's taller than me. I'm 6'3" and he's big. And I said, so how did you get into it? Because I always want people's stories. I can't help myself. So and so he goes, well, 19 years or no, 16, he goes, 16 years ago, we had a baby here at Scripps. And my wife developed an aneurysm or a hemorrhage. And it's very common for women that are giving birth to die from this hemorrhage.
Yeah.
And they caught it in time and they saved her life. And now, so he had a painting company that he owned. He sold the painting company, went back to school, got his nursing degree, and now he's a nurse every day.
Wow.
His wife has he and his wife have a nonprofit, and they help coach moms, new moms, through that hemorrhage thing. So if they have that hemorrhage development, and
Yeah.
they coach them through it. This is what you do next. This is what you do next. This is what you ask your doctor when you go to the doctor. All this stuff, right? Once you get out of the hospital. So some of the most amazing stories.
Well, it's amazing how his wife's life that was saved prompted him to take certain action, which then prompted him to be a part of saving your life. And
Yeah.
and it's just the
It's the generosity of scars.
It is. And how people make meaning
Yeah.
out of their most difficult moments.
Yeah.
Because there's two paths you can take with that,
Mhm.
and when people choose to turn it into something bigger than themselves and create purpose and meaning to help others with it, it does things like save your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit real quick about what you do with executives. I know that you have a high level consulting coaching business. Talk about that for a second, because a big part of what almost killed me was stress.
Hmm. Hmm.
You're helping them with stress. You're helping them deal with a lot of this. Talk
Yeah.
about that for a second, will you?
Sure. Yeah. So in my work as a therapist, I started when the pandemic hit, and I was doing more online and kind of expanding my impact and reach. And I was working a lot more with business owners and entrepreneurs, and that was an especially tough time for business owners, in
Mhm.
in 2020. And surprising, not surprising, the more they worked on their, mental and emotional and cognitive and psychology health, the more their businesses grew.
Mhm.
So I more or less was encouraged to get into the executive coaching
Mhm.
space. But I do more of executive psychology coaching.
Yeah.
And so one of the main things with high achievers is their drive. Otherwise, they would be
Mhm.
high achievers. But this overdrive creates an overactive nervous system,
Mhm.
and no one teaches you how to come down from that.
Correct.
So we call overdrive drive and ambition,
Mhm.
and it's the very thing that can kill us,
Mhm.
right? But there's so many things that create that. So when you dig down into the layers of stress and the challenges that entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders and executives face, it's a very lonely walk
Mhm.
sometimes. And there's a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And with that comes these subconscious beliefs that we have about ourselves that we don't even know we are living out. 95% of our brain is subconscious long-term memory. And
Mhm.
the wiring, the foundation that was laid before the age of 10 is still there. And
Mhm.
if you haven't done the work or addressed certain things in your life, then you'll find that the things that used to serve you well no longer serve you well anymore.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is your way of thinking, your
Mhm.
habits, your patterns, your drive even. And so a lot of successful people that I work with look successful on the outside, but on the inside, they're unraveling.
Mhm.
And that's the work that I love to do with people, is help them get their internal edge back so that their inner world can become more aligned with their outer world. And what that looks like is changing their relationship to stress, but also changing their relationship to their identity and their worth, and helping people figure out what is your operating system. Because for some high achievers, they're like, well, maybe I just need to be more organized, or I need to do the strategy different, or I need to, when in reality, they have a massive fear of rejection
Mhm.
or a fear of failure or
Mhm.
something much deeper that you wouldn't see on the surface. But that is the thing that's creating the internal distress.
Mhm.
And studies show, this is super fascinating, that, or there's a study done where a group of people were, reported X amount of stress. I don't know what the number was, but high levels of stress.
Mhm.
And another group of people, same reported same stress levels. And they did a longitudinal study with these people.
Mhm.
Those who believed their stress was bad for them and believed that it was going to create negative things in their life were more likely to die 10 to 15 years earlier than those who had the same amount of stress, but their belief systems around it were completely different.
Mhm.
So the meaning that we create around things, so our own mindset, our own psychology, is part of what creates all of the stress responses that we get and the reasons why we stay stuck. So my job is to help people get their internal edge back so that they can feel the success that they show on the outside with a sense of peace and confidence and clarity that you want, you know.
People struggle in silence.
Oh, absolutely. And our culture has conditioned us to stay silent about it because, especially for men, you know, there's I think it's getting better, but there's still this sort of stigma that emotions are weak,
Mhm.
and being emotional means you're illogical, which isn't
Mhm.
true. Um, and that you should just be able to figure it out on your own, essentially. We become so hyper independent, we've lost healthy dependency on
Mhm.
each other.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I do have a question. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, if they need coaching, if they need what you're providing, which is invaluable to executives, how can they reach you?
They can go to mandyemorris.com.
And Mandy's
And
with a
that
Y, Mandy.
Mandy with a Y. Yep. Mandy with a Y, emorris.com. You know, connect with me on social. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all the things.
I sent you a connection request, by the way, on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
great. Good.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for sharing about your story too.
I need to do it more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's powerful. It
Yeah.
really is.
Thanks, Mandy. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.